start on the topic, speed of transition to Oracle Cloud applications from on-premise e-business suite. Before we go into the session, let me quickly give you a brief about Doensys. Doensys is a fast-growing Oracle technology-based solution company with expertise in enterprise applications, predominantly in Oracle-based, based in the USA and India. We are an Oracle Gold partner and is recognized among India's great mid-sized companies in the year 2019. We have around 250 plus employees working for more than 30 plus delighted customers on various Oracle products. We are active in social media platforms, and please follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook. And also we operate a couple of blogs where our doyens post relevant and useful information to Oracle professionals. And I recommend each one of you to go through our blogs. I'll be sharing this links later in the later part of the session today. And coming back to the topic, I would like to give you a short description about the today's session. Oracle e-business suite became a dominant force in the ERP market over a period of many years. In the last few years, we have seen increasing number of organizations moving to Oracle Fusion Cloud, with many more planning to move in the near future. Moving from an on-premise e-business suite to Oracle Cloud is a major business change project, and the number of organizations making this change has some implications. To give us more insight into the topic, let me take privilege in introducing today's speaker, Mr. Patrick Haston. Graduated from Heriot-Watt University, Patrick has extensively worked in different roles using Oracle products over a long career spanning more than 20 years. He is currently working as a project manager at Nature Scott and successfully led the project in migrating from Oracle e-business suite to Oracle Fusion. His portfolio details an encyclopedia of recognitions, achievements, and books he has authored. He is not only a competent project manager, but also a passionate researcher and writer, which reflects in his publications of leadership themes like Become a Team Leader and Resilient Project Manager. He has also published books on software development, project management, and personal development. He has written for various magazines and is a regular contributor to several blogs. He is an avid speaker at various forums and won the award at UK Oracle User Group Speaker Awards in the year 2016, which is a testimony of his passion towards Oracle. Patrick is also passionate about sports and won the British Freestyle Skiing Champion in the 1988 and Scottish Mogul Skiing Champion 1991. And before I hand over the session to Patrick, I would request all of the audience to put your devices on mute, and I would like to see you all on video. And please feel free to ask questions to Patrick and make this session more interactive. And it's all yours, Patrick. And I would like to thank you on behalf of our audience and request you to take this session forward and enlighten your insights.
Thank you very much, Kieran, for that introduction. I'll just share my screen with you. And is that coming up for you now?
Yeah. Yes, Patrick.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. So I'll just get started. I'm going to be covering two aspects today. One is I'm going to talk about our own journey, the project I managed to take our organization from Oracle e-business suite into Fusion into Oracle Cloud. And then I'd like to finish with a few observations about the impact that moving to the Oracle's Fusion Cloud is having on the industry, the wider industry. It's just something I've been observing over time. So I just thought I'd share that with you. So a bit about me. As Kieran said, I'm currently an Oracle Cloud project manager with over 20 years Oracle experience. I came to this from an IT background. I used to be software development manager before I became involved with the e-business suite and leading several projects on that. And then I became the project manager for our cloud project. And I work with Nature Scot. It's previously known as Scottish Natural Heritage, which is maybe why you've seen my name before. It's the same organisation, we just got a new brand. We are Scotland's nature agency, so we're a government-funded organisation, so all our terms and conditions are government-related, and that has implications for how we configure the system, obviously. And I think that's probably enough about us, and because you don't want to hear about us, you want to hear about our journey, and you want to hear about Oracle. So our journey, this is one of our nature reserves in Scotland, so give you a quick flavour of the place. We didn't rush into our journey into Oracle Cloud. We took our time and thought through quite carefully. It's a big decision for an organization to move from your e-business suite, because your e-business suite actually forms the beating heart of your organization. It's a system that your organization relies on, and it's core to almost everything. For us, we had a lot of modules. We had financials, we had procurement, HR, payroll, expenses. We even had learning and recruitment, all in the e-business suite. And we relied on that for our daily operations, and the thought of moving away from that was quite scary. But also we were really realizing that we couldn't live there forever. We could see that the writing was on the wall. Although Oracle was saying, there was going to be lifetime unlimited support, Oracle were clearly devoting more of their effort and attention onto their cloud product, and that was clear where most of their energy was going to be going, and therefore the e-business suite was going to become a legacy system and wasn't going to get the same number of updates and going forward. So we spent 6 months actually making a decision as to which cloud product did we want to go to. I mean, cloud was the direction that the Scottish government and the UK government was dictating. That's government policy. In the UK, is look for cloud solutions first. So we looked at the different cloud offerings on the market, the different ERP cloud offerings, and we did a review of that, and Oracle came out top. And it's mainly because of the maturity of their payroll solution. The other cloud systems we looked at, either the payroll was a standalone option, or wasn't fully integrated, or they just didn't have it. So, and we'd had on the e-business suite, we had a fully integrated system which gave us lovely joined up reporting, and the thought of moving away from that was just, wasn't really something we wanted to consider. So, and moving to the Oracle Cloud from the e-business suite, well, it's if you've seen underneath the bonnet, you know that underpinning it is a very similar data model. A lot of the terminology is the same, so it was speaking the same language to us. So we thought it was going to be an easier transition. So following that decision, we did some due diligence. We spoke to other customers here in the UK, some early adopters of the cloud, and learned from them, was it actually as good as the sales guys were telling us? And to a certain extent, that was true. It did seem to be delivering, although they did tell us that the implementation projects were going to be quite hard, and to be prepared for that. So, and then we had a lengthy procurement phase, because we're public sector and we've got so many rules to comply with. So, and then we got the final approval from the Scottish government to sign off the project. So, and then our project was a 12-month project, and that was to get the first modules live, which we went live with financials and some of the HR modules and learning and procurement. The payroll and recruitment came along later. So
Patrick,
the implementation project, sorry?
your voice is slightly feeble. At times it's good, at times it's feeble. So might be you might have to come closer to the mic or do some adjustment.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, no worries.
That's good. Thank you.
Yeah, so the implementation project, we worked with Evosys, and you can see the team there. It's we had one team. There was a group. We liked Evosys because they give us an on-site team, and they became part. The on-site team and our people, we all sat together and we were one team, and it worked really well. They were backed up by having a centre of excellence in London, and also they had more people based offshore who were doing things like the reports development and the data loading itself from the data migration that was done offshore. So, but it was all coordinated through the people who were on site, and it worked really well. It was a really good way of working, and because they were on site, we learned so much from them that really helped us in terms of the knowledge transfer and us helping us get up to speed quicker. So, and they were a great bunch of people, so that was nice. Some of the key lessons from our project, because I wanted to give you something you can take away with you that I would like to share with you. Data migration was an issue. Payroll was challenging. We were an early adopter for several things, and which, if you want to have a speedy implementation, don't be an early adopter. Senior management, we had good senior management support, and we had, but that doesn't happen, by itself. It takes a lot of, and I'll explain how to get that and retain that. And then communications, we had good communications with the organization as to what was happening and how so I'll share how we did that. Data migration. The data migration is in moving to Oracle Cloud from an on-premise solution. Even if it's e-business suite, it's still a complex problem. So, simple problems in project management speak, a simple problem is something where everybody knows how to do it. It's so simple that you don't need to even write out the way to do it, because everybody just knows. A complicated problem is one where you can ask an expert and they can give you a fairly accurate assessment of exactly how long it's going to take and what you need to do to get there. Whereas a complex problem is just not enough information available to give you that accurate estimate. So in terms of data migration, nobody knew everything. Our implementation consultants, they knew the table structures that we needed to put the data in. They knew Fusion, the Oracle system. We knew our source, and we knew the source data, and we knew what data information we held, but we didn't know how. But between us, we had to somehow pool that knowledge to find the information that would tell us how long it would take to migrate the data, because we just didn't. Nobody knew all the answers. And when you get a complex problem like that, you can't. Although you've got an estimate, a schedule in your project plan for how long you think it's going to take, that is purely, it's just an estimate at that stage. It's just based on experience. You can't have an accurate estimate for data migration, not until you actually start and find out just how good or otherwise your data is. Thankfully, most of our data was actually in fairly good state, but there were issues, that's probably true for every single ERP project. The data is always going to be an issue. But if you want to have a smooth and project, then there's no reason for the client organization to wait until the project begins to start preparing. With hindsight, we should have spent more time deciding, which data we were going to migrate, and also we could have done more to clean the data, and that would have, both those tasks would have helped during the project implementation and helped cut the time. and make it a smoother process. Payroll. Our original project plan was to go do a big bang go live and have everything ready at the same time and go switch everything across, because in the Oracle applications world, everything is interrelated, so it's hard to separate out your financials from your HR, because you need, and your procurement, because the procurement rules rely on having the people in place who've got the delegated authority to make the approvals. So you need to have all that information in at the same time. So that's why we thought we'll just go live with everything at once. Soon became clear that wasn't going to work. Payroll just takes longer. We gave it our best shot, but we didn't. Partly on our side, we didn't resource it sufficiently. We didn't. We're a small organization. We've only got 700 people. We only had one payroll manager. We should, with hindsight, we should have brought in a second payroll manager to run business as usual, so our payroll manager could be dedicated to the project, and that would have speeded things up, because the poor person doing payroll had to juggle their time between delivering the project work and running live payrolls in between. It was just, it didn't make for a smooth, so payroll took longer because we needed extra time to do the 3 parallel runs. So for us, we changed our plans to separate out to give payroll the time it needs. But if we'd planned that from the beginning, that would have been less stressful. And that's payroll just takes longer. There's no other way around it. We were early adopters for recruitment, for Oracle Recruitment Cloud. We were one of the first to go live with that. Learning, we weren't quite so on the such an early adopter. There were other people ahead of us, but still it wasn't that mature a product. And my CSP is the UK civil service pension provider, and we were trying to be one of the first to go live. At this point in time, nobody is live with that yet, including us. Although the first 2 organizations are going live in the next couple of weeks. So we're going to be a bit longer, but it's that was really, being an early adopter is hard. It adds to the complexity of the project. There's not the same bank of information available for the implementation team. There's not the same information available for the client, the customers, and although you get access to the Oracle Center of Excellence, you need that, and you just need, if you're going to be an early adopter, you need to build in more time into your project plan, because and have a plan B as well, because our pensions interface, we had to implement our plan B, which was to do it manually and we've been doing it manually for 12 months. It's hopefully not much longer. So senior management support, we worked a lot of the time we did initially about doing this evaluation of the market, doing a strategic review, was to ensure that we did have senior management support right from the beginning, and they understood why we were doing this move to the cloud and what it was going to give us and the benefits to the organization. Because the benefits for us as an organization were only partly, well, not really financial actually. It's either way, it's there wasn't a huge return on investment in the business case. The benefits were more about delivering a modern user interface, and it would allow us to deliver greater business innovation and streamline a number of business processes. So it's about giving us a more modern, more flexible system that's going to be fit for the next decade, and that's what we've achieved. That absolutely. But we worked hard to get their buy-in, and then throughout the project we kept I spent a huge amount of time working with keeping the senior managers up to date, constantly briefing them, and that meant that when we did have issues, and every project has issues, and we needed a quick decision. They were up to speed. They knew where we were at the project, and they were felt able to make decisions quickly because they knew what they were, just because of that knowledge and awareness that they had. So that really helped us speed up the project. And communications, we worked with our internal communications team to get some dedicated space in the internal intranet. So we had, throughout the project in the run up to going live, we had, everybody knew what was happening. In terms of the messages, we knew there was going to be an awful lot of messages going out around the transition to live. So because we're going to have some downtime, people needed to know when they could last put a transaction through an old system and when they could start using the new one. There's a whole lot of communication activities that needed to happen. So we wrote all those out beforehand and got them all the wording correct and got it signed off by the head of finance, head of HR, got their buy-in. So we had a whole bank of messages all ready to go. And then we had somebody whose job it was to manage that communication with the organization. And it was practically a full-time job during the month before and the month and the month after going live, just to manage those communications with the organization. And it's good, it's good communications is important. And if we tried to do that ourselves with somebody else from the project team, we were working flat out just to go live, and there's so many other things. We didn't have the time to do that. But having somebody who was dedicated to that really helped because they weren't distracted by the issues that we were trying to run around and sort at the last minute. They could focus on the communications. So those are my top 5 tips for getting a smooth transition. I could go on and on, but I wanted to share some of my observations about how things are changing in the wider industry. Particularly in the Oracle world, because this move from the on-premise to the cloud has got some quite big implications. So I wanted to talk about the Oracle Cloud application itself. What it wondering exploring why it's so successful. Some of the implications for the wider industry, where I think some of the pressure points are at the moment and will be, and obviously some of where it's going to be reduced demand for skills in the future, and looking ahead for the longer term, because just thinking about where our careers are going to be. Gartner does this stuff all the time. They're saying that they're estimating that 70% of all new financial management projects are going to be in the cloud. So I think that's probably an underestimate.
Patrick, sorry to interrupt. So let us give a small pause, and so one of our audience has a question. So would you like to take this? Okay. So Prakash is asking. So one of the common challenges has been extracting, cleansing, and preparing data as per the standard templates. So as you know, so Fusion has a different template. Right. So how are you able to handle this? How did you handle this when you were implementation?
So we had, as part of our project, we had an iterative approach. So it was we had a conference room pilot and then a second conference room pilot, and so for each of those conference room pilots, we had to do a data migration, so a data extract. So what we did was we developed from the e-business suite, we took a clone of the production system, and we had a series of scripts that we pulled in some of our in-house development resource to develop these scripts, which pulled out the data. And one of the things we did was we created a view at the core of it, which included the list of who the people were. So we created those scripts, and we basically had a book of scripts that we would use to extract all the data into Excel spreadsheets, which our implementation provided us with. those Excel spreadsheets had a bit of basic validation in them, and then we handed those Excel spreadsheets onto the Vosis team, and they did the data load from Excel into the .dat format and did the loading into Fusion. So it was a, we did, so the Excel was the point at which we got involved. So that's how we did the process, and so we had a whole book of SQL scripts that pulled out the data in the right format.
Okay, so one more question for you, Patrick. Deepa has asked this question. So was this a cloud migration to an infrastructure as a service, or a platform as a service, or a SaaS solution? And what was the EBS version on premise, and what was it in cloud?
So the EBS system we had was on premise, so it was running on our own servers, and that was all working fine. We had a DBA who spent half his life looking after that server. That was his job, and that all worked well. We did look at a platform as a service, but we didn't, not to the same extent as moving to the cloud, because we recognized that the most of our savings were not coming from saving half of a DBA's time, or saving a little bit of buying a bit of hardware. Hardware is not expensive. There's not huge savings to be had from that. The big savings that we were seeking to achieve were from moving to the Oracle Cloud HCM Cloud solution, because that gave us the process optimizations, process and business improvements that would really deliver benefit for the business.
Okay. So, and then I have one question for you, Patrick. So how did you ensure the user readiness and adaptability? And then how did you handle the users in terms of training? And then how tough it was for the users to adapt from EBS to Fusion? Usually, whenever there is an implementation that goes live, and then users also make a lot of noise that this is not working, that is not working, and so how did you handle it? So did you train the users, and then did users had any problems?
Yeah, we had the project plan had a train the trainer approach. So we trained for us, what we did, we set up training from the implementation partner for the project team and the core HR and finance teams. So we got they were all trained by our implementation team. The wider organization, were trained by us, by the SNH and HScot people. So that was mixed. We made a number of, we concentrated on training what we call our local administrators, who provide, we're quite a distributed organization, so we don't have everybody in one place. We're scattered around different offices. So we tried to concentrate on training the people who basically provide the local support to each of the teams around the different offices. So we wanted to have local experts. That worked to an extent, and we also provided developed some training videos and some training notes to follow for people for the key business processes. What we found was that those people who used the training material we provided seemed to, for most of the time, they managed very well, and we actually had some feedback to say, oh, that worked really well. If people followed the instructions, then it worked. However, with any organization, you'll have a number of people who think they know better and will just launch in and have a go and try and muddle through themselves without reading the instructions, and and get themselves into a mess. And we seem to have more than our fair share of those. So the support desks were busy during the first month and beyond, and it tended to be it was the usual suspects. People we know were always, they're high maintenance people, so we knew that they were going to be phoning, because they struggled with the old system, they struggled with the new system, and they moan, and we had complaints from them. But that was okay. There are a few instances where there was people got themselves into a mess, and it took a while to unpick it, and that ate up time. But most of the time, it was people managed to get on with it. One of the big complaints we had with the old system was how difficult it was to use with the e-business suite. People really struggled with its user interface and found it very unintuitive. People who didn't use it on a regular basis, that is. So the Oracle, the cloud applications are much easier to follow. They're more consistent in their look and feel, and they just and we've had good feedback that people are finding it more intuitive and easier to use. But I won't say we got it perfect. We got it all right, but there's always going to be people who who complain.
Because this is the usual problem whenever you upgrade your system from the user community. And one more question, Patrick, from my side. So after the implementation and go live, so did you see any issues like the functionality is broken or not working as desired? So how are these issues? Were they really minimal, or you have seen a lot of issues? So how was the application?
Now, we had, in terms of there weren't any big issues on the financial side. The products that are more mature had fewer issues. Financials and procurement were pretty robust and worked pretty well. We had a few issues on the HR side, but not many. We've had a bit more on the learning, because that's a newer module. Recruitment, we had more issues, but that's more because it's when we went live, it was well, throughout the project, it was changing so much because it was such a new product that new functionality is being released every quarter, quite a lot of new functionality. So that made it quite difficult, and that continued after go live. So that's been a bit disruptive, but most of the time that's good new stuff. The issue that's caused us most grief has been the interface, the pensions interface, because we had to go live without that, and we had to develop a whole suite of reports to pull information out. So that's been but I think it's hard to say this. I think the stability of the system compares well with the e-business suite in terms of the service requests we're raising are rarely to do with the system being broken. It's more about our data, or we've perhaps not configured it quite correctly, or it's a quarterly update has meant that we're having to make changes. So I think it's at least as stable as the e-business suite.
Thank you, Patrick. And we have one more question from Narayan and Vedantam. And so the question is, why can't we migrate all modules to cloud from EBS like Big Bang approach? What is the advantage of moving module by module? How will we get the integrated data part of the module in EBS?
Yeah, well, it's because that was our plan. That was what we wanted to do. We wanted to do a Big Bang and go live with everything all at once.
And Patrick, sorry to interrupt. Your voice is still low. Can you be a bit louder, please?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, we wanted to do that was our intention, and that's what we'd hoped to do. But we were finding that payroll was just to run the parallel interfaces was taking so long that everything else, other modules were ready to go live, and we were their finance team just wanted to crack on and start using it. So so that's what we did. Because it was ready, it was, for them, it was ready to go. So we didn't, and so we just let them go. And so we ended up having a phased go live. If we could have waited, and that would have given us a but that would have come with a cost, because that would have meant extending the whole project. Because we had the project team, we would have to pay people to sit and wait, and that was just not, so it has a cost. So that's why, it's I don't know the answer is because I don't know if you can start payroll first, so they all end up finishing together, or that seems to me to be quite difficult to do. I think it's I don't think it could have been done any other way. I think you have to start them all at the same time, either you make some of the modules wait and go live all at once, or you have a phased go live. But they take different lengths of time, because you don't have the same concept of doing parallel runs with a financial system as you do with payroll.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. And one more question, Patrick. So, to what extent were you able to eliminate or minimize the customizations in the new environment?
Well, we didn't have very many customizations, and which was good. The modules we had customizations in, well, we had one fairly big customization in our financial system, which was to do with how we ran our accounting, and we were able to find a way of moving away from that, which, well, we had to. And so we did that. And on the other modules where we had customizations, we had heavily customized the iRecruitment system and the learning management system in the eBusiness Suite. And in actual fact, the customizations we introduced, in my opinion, they actually made things worse in the eBusiness Suite. So it was actually a good opportunity to get rid of those and to move to a cleaner, off-the-shelf product that actually worked better. That meant for us, for recruitment, a huge change, because in the past we used to use application forms for people applicants to complete, and we had to switch to using CVs or resumes, and that was a big change for us, and took a lot of persuasion to change the way we recruit. A big business, and we convinced the HR team that this was going to be a good thing. This is how everybody else in the world did it, and just standard business processes is a good thing. And so we've made that change, and it's actually, everybody's loving it, because it's so much easier for applicants. The managers who are doing the evaluating the things, everybody's used to working with CVs, and it's just everybody knows how to use it. So it's just everybody, and it's a much better process that we've got now with recruitment than we had before. So it's working well.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. And yeah, you can continue with the session now.
All right, sorry, I should have given you a pause
all the
before
questions
rushing into this. So yeah, so talking about the Oracle's success with the cloud applications, last year they were quoting 6,000 ERP cloud customers, and saying that was growing at 32% a year. And obviously I expect that this year there's going to be a dip because of the coronavirus and COVID-19. But even so, that dip will be temporary. I think but if you think about it, that's 2,000 implementation projects a year, and that's growing by a third each year. So those numbers are going up, and these are big projects. because we're talking to some of these, we're a small organization, but some of the organizations are massive who are moving to the Oracle Cloud, and huge projects. So if you look back in time, EBS took decades to gain the market share it has just now, and each of those customers, most of them built up their portfolio of EBS over several years, over a long period. So it wasn't just one project to implement. So in the past, to get to where the current EBS estate, that's decades worth of projects, and yet over the next 5-10 years, all of that, or a huge part of that, is going to be moving to the cloud, and it's the scale of this business transformation is just massive. And if you listen to what Oracle is saying, they're taking customers from elsewhere as well, so it's even bigger than just the current EBS estate. It's huge. So why are people doing that? Because everybody's recognizing EBS is legacy, and it's going to be dated. And like us, people are seeing the opportunities for having a more modern and more better business processes. And of course, there's the bragging rights and having the latest shinies. I'm not going to read through all of this because it's too many words on the screen. But basically, there's huge amount of work to do to make all this happen. And so there's work for people like us, which is great, because we're going to be in demand. And that's good news for us, but it does mean that for customers trying to run these projects, they're struggling to get the numbers of experienced people that they need. So, and that adds risks, but that's so the pressure points we've got. The industry experience, the new modules like recruitment, there's just not enough people who know how to use it or know how to configure it, and that's going to, and Oracle, with every quarterly update, there's new functionality being released. So even if you did know something, if you're not keeping yourself up to date, you're going to not know how to configure everything in that module because it's changed. It's one of the downsides of working in the IT industry is you're always learning. Maybe that's a good thing as well, though. So huge amount of for us who work in this industry, is a huge amount of work just to keep ourselves up to date. And the interface integration that was fairly easy to do in the e-business suite because you'd access to the data, behind the scenes. That's not there anymore. You have to. It's a lot harder to do your interfaces. Although I think some of the work that's happening is making that easier in the future. So obviously EBS skills are going to be less required and required less in the future, as will DBA skills, because especially with the autonomous database that Oracle are going with. In the short term, I think there's going to be, for us, it's a chance to make hay while the sun shines, because we're going to be in demand. As long as we keep ourselves up to speed and up to date, then that's good, because we're going to be sought after professionals. It's going to be lots of career opportunities for us, and we're going to be. But in the longer term, I'm thinking, beyond 5-10 years, then obviously the number of projects will dry up, and we'll need to be thinking about, well, what are we going to do next? So that's something that we all need to think about, is what's our exit plan from this Oracle Cloud? Where are we going to go next? So that would be my tip, is to think about what you do after this. And that's all I was going to cover today. I was going to leave more time for questions here. I've gone through some of that quite quickly because it's I wanted to give you more time for questions, really. But So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Patrick. So any questions, guys, for Patrick? So we have 15 more minutes left, and then please ask questions. Yes, Narayanan. So can you ask that question?
Do you want me to stop sharing my screen?
Yeah, you can stop sharing your screen. And then, Narayanan, are you there? So you have raised your hand. Is there any question that you want to ask Patrick?
What about security in the cloud data?
Security in the cloud. We've implemented. There's several aspects to this. It's not just. We've implemented the location-based access control to ensure that to restrict the locations from which people can log into the cloud. So our staff can only log in when they're connected to our corporate network. So they can't log in using their mobile device. It's introduced some restrictions, but it's increased the security of the system because our data in the cloud is our most sensitive data that we hold. And it has to be protected.
No, what I meant is, did you do any penetration and vulnerability testing of cloud data from outside source?
We didn't do any penetration test of Oracle's platforms. That's actually part of Oracle's terms and conditions that you don't do that. They don't like customers trying to hack into their system. Funny that. So that we weren't able to do penetration tests of the Oracle system.
Okay.
But our own view is that we're a small organization, and although we've got we've got good people who work in our IT team, we don't have the same level of expertise that a massive organization like Oracle has. And if somebody was really wanting to hack into our system to get at our data, it's safer in Oracle's server than it is in our server.
Okay, when you told that you went migration module by module, during the transition time, you were entering the data parallelly in both the system, cloud as well as on-premise system, and then how did you integrate when you have moved all the modules into the cloud? So this is a real challenge. Yeah. Double entry.
Yeah, the difference in time between the two modules, the different modules going live was not long. So there wasn't a long period of parallel data entry for us to maintain. There was a short period, and it was a hassle for the team. They had to work hard for those 2-3 months, but that's how we did it. We did it manually using parallel data entry, and it was.
What was the time gap between full migration, data entering and parallel system? 1 month, 2 months? What is the time?
It was 3 months.
3 months.
So it wasn't, okay. It was manageable.
Okay.
Hi, Patrick.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Hi.
Hey, Patrick, Prakash here. This is a nice session. Thank you. One question which I had was that you initially mentioned that you've taken 6 months for you to evaluate and then take a decision to move to Oracle Cloud. And one of the reasons that you also mentioned was that payroll you thought is one of the differentiators. Just my question is more on what were the other aspects where you thought where you were able to see that Oracle was better than the other products, and what were some of the other aspects which you were able to evaluate on?
Okay, well, you have to remember that we did this review some time ago now. It was back in 2017, so the market is not the same now, but we identified 4 products that we thought that might meet our needs. One was from Microsoft, one was from SAP, obviously. There was the Oracle Cloud, and the NetSuite was the other one, which actually Oracle ended up buying, so it ended up being another Oracle one. But those are the products we looked at, and the one that was closest in meeting our full requirements was the SAP product. The others didn't seem, they didn't offer the full range of functions that we were needing. The SAP product obviously did, and it looked lovely on the screens, but the costs were, although Oracle, Oracle's not known for being cheap. SAP were even more expensive. So
okay. Okay. Yeah.
That was that, and also we knew Oracle, so we thought it would be an easier transition.
Yeah. Sure. Thank you.
Okay. What happened to the in-house IT team post migration? Did you deploy in some other area, or was there any loss of jobs?
No, because one of the drivers for us was our IT team. I've said, we have been with us for an awful long time. Our organization is nearly 30 years old, and many of our IT team joined the organization at the beginning, and they're all coming up for this age at which they're able to retire. And we knew some of them were planning to go, and this was one of the drivers for us to move to the cloud, is because we knew we were going to be losing some of those people. So they were, so that was managing the risk. Moving to the cloud helped us manage the risk of that. So one of them has now retired, and so we've been able to. So that's so the team was naturally reducing in size. So it's just that's how we handled that.
Okay.
Any other questions that you would like to ask? Right.
Stunned silence. No, it's well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for all your attention and for all your questions as well, everyone. I hope that's been useful.
Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. Thanks so much for sharing the wonderful experience that you have faced, and we really appreciate all the wisdom that you have shared.
You're welcome. I'm quite proud of what the team have achieved here, and it's good to share that with others. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, Patrick.
And Patrick, a quick thing. Like in case if we take up this, like when we take up this fusion projects in the future, like can we reach out to you in case we come across any issues, like for your suggestions?
Yes, probably the best thing is to connect with me through LinkedIn. I'm pretty easy to find. If you search for me by name, I think I'm I believe there is one other person on the planet called Patrick Haston, but he lives in Vancouver, so I'm the only one in Scotland.
Actually, I mean, now that we have seen you, I think we can find you out easily.
Yeah.
Thank you, Patrick.
No worries.
Patrick, like I just remembered, I was thinking to ask you this. I think I missed out that part. For extracting, cleansing, and transmitting the data from the on-prem ABS to the Fusion, did you use any Oracle tool for that, or did you use any third-party tool like Data Lake or something?
We used just the simple SQL developer, and just ran the scripts in that, and it was very low tech.
Okay.
But we had our own technical in-house resource to do that, and he was actually very good. He was very knowledgeable and was able to did a good job for us.
Okay, so I mean, you didn't have to load it using any flat files.
The loading was all done for us by our implementation partner, and Oracle have a defined way of doing that using the HDL is what we use to load the HR data.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you all. Please follow us on the social media network. So we are on LinkedIn and we are on Facebook, and we are also managing a couple of blogs for all the Oracle professionals. Please follow us and stay tuned for the next session. Thank you very much, all of you. Thanks, Patrick. Thanks for your session today.